Lo-Fi Old Man Deep Dive. Mosrite Celebrity 2. Hello, tubers. Intro. With this guitar, we will find out if vintage is any good. We shouldn't mistake old to mean good. In my limited experience, old is just old. There are equal chances that it will be good or bad. Like if we were going on a 10-hour bus trip with vintage, we chose a cranky old man with special needs to sit beside us, compared to somebody younger or someone more interesting. These old guys need more attention, has more quirks, and is less ready to play than the younger guitars. Vintage. This Mosrite Celebrity 2 is from 1968. That's old enough to qualify as vintage, and we will find out if it is anything else but old. Old or rare is not the same as good, and not the same as special or expensive. For me, if an old guitar plays well, the vintage is a bonus, but it doesn't make or break a guitar. For me, old means interesting, but you might have other preferences. If you're searching for tones in a studio, a vintage may be useful, but a lot of work and TLC is needed for that instrument to be played more often. Usually, most vintage guitars are player grade, which in guitar speak means old and functional, but most probably changes have been made to the guitar so that it can play reliably. However, it doesn't look nice or original enough to be displayed in a museum or fetch collector's item prices. If we get it in good quality, or if we can make it playable, then that is great. Yes, we have a part of history, but it needs to be reliable to gig. Otherwise, we just have a conversation piece or a ratty museum item, not a guitar. Then there is always that dilemma that every time we fix something, we might make it more playable, but less original. The guitars are for playing, not a museum piece for display purposes only. For me, playability overrules OG status every time. What is perhaps the most important thing is that we develop an emotional attachment with the instrument to be a part of its history, to share our musical experiences with it. For me, that is more important than its past. The history that we and the instrument make together. Playing the guitar is a much better experience than just nerding over it or putting it on display. Let us coax a little more music out of it. Of course, we need to take care of it because we may not be the last one to play it. How we connect with the guitar is more important than its vintage and whatever provenance it has had. The best connection with the guitar is played, not spoken. Mosrite. Many websites, blogs, and videos have covered the messy history of Mosrite, so I will not do that here. The fact that I use the term messy gives you a clue. Yes, its history is more convoluted than the histories of Fender, Gibson, and Gretsch. Although Fender and Gibson have been active at making their past more checkered lately, there are a few artists in history playing the Mosrite like the Ventures. Johnny Ramone used one but with different pickups, and Kurt Cobain played a Vox version of the solid body Mosrite called the High Flyer. There are Japanese and American Mosrites, and this guitar is a little different from the guitars mentioned because it is a hollow body guitar. Mosrite has its fans and forums, and like many historic brands, people like to nerd over it. We won't do that here. We just try to get it in plain shape and squeeze out some music out of it. Clips and demos. Since this brand is proximate to the Ventures, the Ramones, and Nirvana, I think that is a broad enough spectrum to feature their songs as the clips for this guitar. Again, it's a guitar straight to a Vox VT40X amp shot with a cell phone. The guitar has some nice acoustic properties. We might try to get some acoustic tunes out of it. This is Mosrite of California, so it is made in USA. Repairs. First off, the headstock was splitting, so we needed to address that. Nothing that a few clamps and wood glue won't solve. We just have to be a little patient and meticulous about the two halves meeting properly. It helps to do some practice runs so we know where to put the clamps and coils before adding the glue. Second, while the action in relation to the fretboard is okay, the break angle from the trem to the bridge is too low. There is a buzz, and the bridge has been raised to the max. In addition, the bridge is rocking, as shown in the video, which is not good. It looks like the former owner let go of this because the issues were piling up. To solve this, I changed the bridge to another tune-o-matic and raised it a bit. From the picture, you can see that I've filed additional slots in the bridge so that the string spacing evens out in relation to each other and in relation to the fretboard. Guitar setup and repair is measured in fractions of millimeters, or 30 seconds and 16ths for the Imperial System guys. The adjustments are tiny. A little adjustment here or there will usually solve the problem. If not, then the guitar is poorly built. Third, there were strip screws, which can be a big problem depending on the location. Of course, we need to replace all the ones we can find. I don't know if you've noticed by now, but if I can, I remove the pick guards off guitars because when I play, I don't use a pick, so no need for a pick guard. Sometimes I leave them on if there is a neck dive, but I usually remove them. The guitar looks nicer with more visual area for the body with the pick guard removed. The tuners needed to be improved, but since these are proprietary tuners, I decided to get something similar in form so I don't put new holes into the headstock. If we look at the tuners, the screws are lower left and upper right, so I got tuners with a similar form. That said, the tuners were actually upper left and lower right, and the screw holes did not match. Thus, this guitar needs to be turned in reverse with respect to other guitars. I have also decided to remove the covers of the tuners because they jiggle around no matter how tightened the screws. These are just cheapo tuners, they do the trick. Google AI says that the tuners of the Mosrite Celebrity 2 are Clusons, but these look like the original tuners, and these are definitely not Cluson. The problem with tuners is that all have to work well. If you have one or two misbehaving, it doesn't look nice to replace just those two. We need to replace the whole set. Anyway, tuners are sold by the set. Of course, we need to keep the old tuners just in case we sell the guitar and somebody wants the original tuners. As you can see, in comparison to newer guitars, there's a certain amount of TLC we have to do with these old guys. Most of the time, these guitars aren't plug and play. Hopefully, we are capable of undertaking the repairs. If not, then a local luthier may work out. For me, I try to do the repairs myself, unless it is rewiring a pickup, which I will leave to the experts. It is best to do these repairs in shifts because if I do all of this in one session, I get impatient to play the guitar and hurry things up, and sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes we have to step back and decide if we can go further or take a break and get back to the guitar when we can focus again and we no longer feel rushed. I also had to spray some electronic contact cleaner on the pickup selector because the bridge pickup sounded weak. After all the repairs, it is in a more playable condition, but not perfect. There is still a slight buzz on the G string and the tuners turn in reverse. I don't want to go in and correct the tuners because I will be adding even more screw holes to the headstock, but it plays fine. Body. Google AI says that this guitar may have a laminated maple or spruce top and laminated maple back and sides. The operative word here is laminated. If we take a peek inside the F hole, from what I see, it doesn't look like wood. I don't see any wood grain. To compare, peeking through another semi-hollow, in this case a Guild Starfire 5, we can clearly see the wood grain. I won't sugarcoat, but I highly doubt that the front and back are wood. At its most generous, it may have a wooden veneer top without a lot of flame, and at its worst, it's some kind of fiberboard. The sides do have some kind of flame. The point is, the wood of the body is highly doubtful. I'm not a woodworker, but I'm an architect, and that somehow qualifies me to know wood. These are objective observations. I'm not saying it sounds better or worse because of the build. However, in retrospect, it's a pity that Mosrite didn't try to make the build better, because details like these put this a notch lower than the Fenders, Gibsons, and Gretches this old. In reverb, its price fetches the same price as a Les Paul standard from the 2000s to 2010s. That's up to you to make the decision if the selling price is worth its value. In addition, this particular guitar has a thick, sticky film of something. It's brownish yellow. It looks like one of its former owners have been smoking something, a lot of something, near this guitar. I smoke, so I know how nicotine sticks to everything, but this is something else. Someone has been smoking more exotic leaves or worse, chemicals. Even with all the elbow grease, I have not been able to remove everything. This is the best cleaning I can do for now. We don't have to know the history of a guitar from its former owner. Sometimes the guitar tells the story by itself. The neck has impinged on the front pickup ring, so much so that the ring has deformed. Again, this doesn't affect tone, it just adds to the overall character of the guitar. This guitar needed a bit more product development to iron out kinks like this, or people weren't careful about quality control during assembly. The electronics and trem bar show their age, and unlike Fenders or Gretches or Gibsons this old, time hasn't been kind to its parts, meaning that the parts are not aging well. Worse, it is not easy to buy legit replacements. It will be difficult to find new old stock parts. I doubt if there will be newly manufactured ones, and the used parts will probably be only fractionally better than what is installed now. And buyer beware, there is Mosrite USA and Mosrite Japan. One uses inches, the other uses millimeters. The parts may not be interchangeable, so we need to be careful. We fix and change what we have to and leave the quirks where they are. Like I said, we need a little more tolerance and patience with these old users. But it has some good acoustic properties, and that is a plus for any guitar. I picked up this guitar while learning songs and played it unplugged, and not many hollows or semi-hollows are this resonant unplugged. Neck. Its neck is not too thin nor too thick. It's made of two maple pieces with a rosewood fretboard. We can see that someone didn't make an effort to match the two halves of the neck well enough, but since it doesn't affect tone or performance, we can write it down as part of the quirkiness of the guitar. The rosewood fretboard clearly shows pits on the wood grain. Again, it doesn't affect tone or playability, it just adds to the character of the guitar. It has a metal nut, a zero fret, and teeny tiny frets which essentially make it a fretless wonder. I like the muted fret inlays. I'm not a big fan of huge fret inlays that scream, but some guitars are just like that. The lacquer has chipped off at the binding. I'm just leaving it that way. The neck has a volute like Gibson necks. Pickups, controls, and electronics. Pickups are P90s, and they should be similar to the P90s of solid body Mosrites. I doubt if they would sound like those of Johnny Ramones or Kurt Cobain's. Let's just give it a shot here. The controls are a three-way pickup selector and one tone and one volume. The knobs have that characteristic M mark at the top, typical of Mosrite guitars. Verdict. Yep, this is a vintage all right. It needs all sorts of repairs. Is it reliable? Well, we made it so. Fixing old geezers like this may be a hobby unto itself, but ultimately we wanted to play. Is it worth getting? If you can find one at a lower price, probably. But sonically and performance wise, it doesn't offer anything more special than other guitars. Its resonance unplugged is a plus. While it's not as loud as an acoustic guitar, we can pick it up, play it, and hear it without turning on the amplifier. The highlight of this guitar, and this is mostly the case of all guitars, are its pickups. These are the same P90 style pickups of the solid body Mosrites. And like I said in another video, if the 60 cycle hump isn't an issue, P90s are my favorite type of pickups. They clean up when we lower the volume or lighten the pick attack, and scream when we up the volume or increase our attack. I like that because I'm lazy to fiddle with knobs and switches while I'm playing. And to my ears, P90s sit sonically in that perfect middle ground, that Goldilocks zone, the sweet spot, with enough bass and treble without sounding muddy or ice picky. And the pickups of this guitar sound just like that. Just a short note on the artists. People like to diss on Kurt Cobain for being a rudimentary and unrefined guitarist. I don't see it that way. I suggest we try playing their songs. That's the way to inform ourselves the best about someone else's music. Most of the mistakes on stage, I would speculate as drug induced, and the wonky setup that some stages had in the 90s. If we try learning Nirvana songs, some actually need two guitarists to do right. For the Ramones, having a solid musical career on one guitar, all downstrokes, and a few chords put musically together is an accomplishment in itself. Likewise for the Ventures, for having a career with rudimentary plinking, but that kind of playing was groundbreaking in the 60s. And Hawaii Five-O is a sentimental favorite of mine. I used to watch Steve McGarrett when I was a kid. That's all for now. See you on the next video.